Today we pass through the portal to explore Gates of Devoroth, an upcoming co-op driven RPG made by Frostward Games. So the demo came out in 2020, right?
Yeah.
And it serves as kind of like a prequel almost to this game?
It was more like a demo for a single player open world RPG I wanted to make, and then I realized it would be too much work, so I kind of downscaled the whole game and added multiplayer. So it's story-wise it's a prequel, but the gameplay is no way related to the game I'm making now. From a technical standpoint it's more difficult, but I thought that the whole scale of the game would decrease because I didn't need to make all the systems and mechanics as in-depth as in a open world single player RPG, because then all you have is like the mechanics. But now I have the co-op, and I think that will add a little bit more depth, which I don't have to like implement myself because it comes with the game.
And when you say downsized, you were just really kind of focused on minimizing the world size. How much did you end up downsizing it? Was it like super aggressive?
Yeah, in the end I think it's super aggressive. It's the first thought I had about the open world single player game would be like at least 15 miles maybe, times 15 miles. So it was a pretty big world I was gonna build, and I realized pretty soon that this is gonna take a lot of time to like do it all by myself.
Do you kind of have an estimate on how big you want the world to be right now? Is it downside to like 5?
I decided to make this gate system and have like floating islands, so I could add as many islands as I wanted and as big as I want. I can add a very small island, or I can make like a large island. So I can do like 3 islands and say that this is enough, or add 15 islands and like integrate everything into the game. If I was gonna make like one big world, I was gonna like have to decide this is how big the world is gonna be, and everything have to be connected in that big world.
Talk to me about it, the co-op element. Is it 2-player co-op, 3-player? How many players are going to be in it? And then
I'm not decided if I'm gonna go with 3-player or 4-player. It really depends on the like how easy is it to balance with that many players. If I add 1 player, it's gonna be like a whole other dynamic than with 3 players, and it's mostly with how the enemies work. Like how hard is the enemies gonna be? If we add 1 more player, it's gonna be like super easy if it's balanced towards 3 players. Right now I'm testing mostly with 3 players, but maybe if in the end I feel like 4 players is a better choice, I will adjust it to it.
With this game, you mentioned you kind of downsized the world to kind of focus on the co-op element. With that in mind, kind of talk to me about the game world within the game you're creating right now. Talk to me about kind of what players are going to be exposed to, the different environments and things like that.
Green lush forests, and I have also a thought about having a red type of world, and I also want to do darker areas, a little bit like Dark Souls-esque. Just have to like figure out a way to do that with my kind of graphic style. Right now I'm gonna go like super basic with the weather and stuff, like having 1 weather for each environment. In the demo I released earlier, I had a day-night cycle, but that was because it fitted the world. Right now the world is like scattered. You are floating around on islands like in the void. So the sun is always going to be up, and that's kind of my philosophy right now, that you're not going to have this like day-night cycle because it's going to be constant. The sun is always going to be there.
How are you going to be able to access these gates, right? So is it, are they unlockable? Do you just need to find them and that's it? Do you need to complete certain quests to get into them? Kind of how do you activate them in the game, and kind of how do they work in terms of gameplay?
In the hub world you can do like all the RPG kind of stuff, like crafting, and there you have your main gate where you like travel out into the world from, and when you have unlocked a certain destination, you can open that destination from your hub world, and then you can travel to it.
Okay.
So the idea is that you like first have 1 world where you can travel, and there you do all the stuff you do there, and unlock another destination where you can travel. I'm thinking of adding it like with like having travel wards, I call it, where you have to find the travel ward and like charge it so you can unlock the destination for that travel ward.
And when you talk about the central hub, can you kind of go into a little bit more detail on exactly how that's going to work in the game and what you can do in that?
Basically like the meetup area where you can meet up your friends and craft the items that you have found the recipes for and crafting materials for. I also want to add like arenas where you can like duel your friends.
Okay.
And a little bit of like socializing.
So with lobbies for your friends to come and join in on, talk to me about just kind of the development side of that. How is that going to work from a technical standpoint?
You have to be friends with the person you want to join right now. So I might change that in the future to have like some matchmaking system. But when you join a friend, you essentially join his world with your character that you have previously selected. So it's basically you start up your game and then a friend can jump into your game, into your game world. And then I'm planning when you open a gate to a destination, I'm locking the joining mechanism. So you have to like join before you choose where you're gonna go.
So from a level standpoint, is you just kind of, I'd imagine since it's co-op, it's just you complete that one level all on its own and then you go back to the hub and you can decide whether you're going out again.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. With the story in a game like this, you'd mentioned it's more just kind of background and lore. So that makes me wonder about NPCs and side quests, things like that. So how does that play into this game, if at all, at this point?
Lately I've been thinking of like NPCs that are interacting with the world, but are interacting with you, the player, and providing some kind of backstory to an area. Like what was this area before the shattering and what is happening there now, maybe.
So with that, talk to me about like the actual overarching story that's going to be going on behind the scenes in this game.
From the demo I released, that was like a prequel where you're on an island and you're starting to figure out that something is happening in the world, like the land is being corrupted, the characters are being corrupted. Then I was thinking that the single player open world game I was making was gonna take off from that and like send you on a quest to save the world. So and this game is after that. So somehow the world got destroyed and shattered into multiple islands just floating around in the void. So the player's quest now is basically find out what happened and can we do something about it.
So with a game that, you know, has that kind of story in the background, the lore in the background, are you like collecting different items that are going to impact your gameplay, impact the kind of weapons you have, things like that? Kind of walk me through that one.
Yeah, you're going to collect like artifacts that is going to affect not how the story progresses, but like your progression in the story. I haven't like thought out the whole story yet. It's a lot to add still, but that's like the main gist I got right now.
Talk to me about, you know, the combat in this game, the general gameplay mechanic, and then after that we can kind of dive into like weapons, crafting, things like that.
I took a lot of inspiration from Zelda Breath of the Wild. Before I had this combat system, I had a targeting system similar to those in like World of Warcraft and other MMO, and they were like, it wasn't really fun when you were playing a single player game. And then when I made it co-op, I just didn't see how I could add like the depth in that combat, because it really requires a lot of spells and effects that are like affecting each other. So it would be like take a lot of time to just make all the spells for the game. So then I decided to change it up into an action combat system instead, because then you have like the depth from your skills instead of just spamming certain spells in a certain order. Now you have to like cast a spell in the correct timing and maybe swing a sword at the correct time and dodge out of an enemy's attacks and such.
You know, when you add the multiplayer and the co-op element to it, I almost feel like with the combat you would have to change from a more RPG traditional element, which is a little bit slower, to a much more fast-paced kind of style of combat where you're kind of more doing, I wouldn't say speed run, but something similar to that where you're trying to just progress through the level on a faster pace. Is that kind of, did that affect the weapons you're going to be using? You know, you'd mentioned spells. Can you kind of dive into that one a little bit more for me?
The biggest difference from the previous system I had is basically I added a bow and arrow, because when I started this work, I really wanted to have the bow and arrow, because I really like the bow and arrow combat in Zelda. Like you push the trigger, you draw the bow, and then you release the trigger and you release the arrow. So I made that kind of system at first, where you like press the mouse button, then you draw the arrow, then you release the mouse button, and then you release it. But when I playtested it and my friends playtested it, they didn't really like it. So then I changed it up to a more like you aim with one button and you fire with another button. button, and that made the combat a little bit faster because you could fire arrows faster and aim a little bit better. And then you have the sword swinging and the magic wielding are still there.
Are these weapons like the bow and arrow, are you going to have like a limit on arrows where you can run out, or is it just going to be unchecked infinity? It's never going to run out. It's the same with your spells like that.
I was going to have it like you had to craft your arrows, but then I decided that no, because right now I'm going to do like you as the player are going to choose which paths you want to take. Do you want to be a mage, or do you want to be an archer or a melee type of character? And then I decided if you're gonna be the archer type, you were always gonna have to craft arrows, so it would be like boring, like back in the days with World of Warcraft when you had to like craft all the arrows or buy all the arrows all the time. So instead, now I'm gonna have like you can equip different types of arrows. So either you have a simple arrow or you have a fire arrow, then you will like fire arrows instead.
Yeah.
Basically, you have like a mage, archer, melee, healer, and tank. And then you can spend it pretty much like you want it. If you want to be a mage tank, you can spend like half in mage and half in tank and have mage spells with the tank spells. The mage is gonna be like more the typical range caster, have different varieties of spells like fireballs and maybe blood magic and such, while melee is gonna be like the warrior type of class where you have melee weapon attacks and such. It's going to be pretty much like the traditional archetypes, maybe with a little bit of twist on each skill.
You know, you'd mentioned co-op. If you don't have two people you can go in there with, have you ever considered adding AI?
I wasn't planning on having any AI companions right now, but I have tested it with my previous game, the single-player open-world game. So maybe I can add something similar if you are playing it alone. But I also intended you are able to play it alone, because I want it to be like the player skill is what determines if you're going to be successful. Like if you are a good player, you can complete the whole game by yourself.
You'd mentioned the skills tree. Are you going to implement like a leveling system alongside that skills tree, where you can level your character up, or is it mainly focused on just unlocking different elements of your skills tree to rank those pieces up?
When you gain knowledge, you also gain like a knowledge pool. When you have filled up that knowledge pool, you gain a knowledge point, which you can spend on the spell tree. But at the same time, you still have your knowledge. Think of it like souls in Dark Souls. You are acquiring that knowledge, and your character still has that knowledge. And then you can spend that knowledge when you are crafting stuff, or maybe at some type of vendor. You are still able to spend that knowledge on other stuff than just the spells.
With the progression, you know, you're going into these different lobbies with your friends. So is it linear in that way, where like you play a lobby and you can't go back and play it again? Or is it you can go play any lobby you want and they're all an option? How does that work exactly? You just unlock the gate and then from there out you can play it from that point on?
That's pretty much how I'm thinking about it, because I don't want to lock you out of any content if you have unlocked it already. I'm not sure exactly how to handle it in the end, but if you have unlocked an island, you're able to go there. And then I don't know yet how I will handle, like if you killed all the enemies there, will they just respawn the next time you go to that area, or how it will work? But somehow I want to have that replayability, like you can find something on another island, go back to the other island that was referenced from somewhere. There should be content on multiple islands at multiple times, so you should be able to travel to multiple islands.
So you're not limited to just one, you can jump between multiple before you go back to that hub.
That's what I want to make, at least, and we're gonna see how far I come there.
What's the roadmap in 2022 look like for you? What do you have planned? What do you want to integrate into the game at this point?
I want to have something resembling a demo, maybe out by the summer, so at least a small amount of people can test it and come with feedback on what systems work, what systems do not work. But right now I'm trying to re-implement my AI to have like more of a state machine behavior tree approach, where I can have them do multiple things in one combat encounter, like not just attack the player. Like it can get scared if he are low on health and like back off, and if you see that the player turns his back on him, he's gonna like attack. So that's what I'm working on right now. Then I want to continue working on more islands, because right now I only have the one that's really not polished, but something you can play at, and I want to add at least a couple of more islands to have the basic flow of the game in there. Like you go to one island, do what you're gonna do there, and then you can go to the next island and do other things there.
Gates of Devoroth may still be a ways off, but you can still explore the game's prequel demo over on itch.io, and you can check out the game's Steam page and support Frostward Games on his Twitter, as well as all of his other social media channels. They're all down below. Make sure you check all of that out. But before you go, why not like, comment, and subscribe, and click on the videos on either side of me. This has been a ride, ladies and gentlemen, but until next time, I am Nick, and this is the Side Quest, and I will see you next time.